Welcome back, viewers, with our latest episode of Across the Pond podcast, or our podcast with Martin Cullip and I at the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. We have a really awesome guest today. She's from our neighbors to the north. I know it looks like we're giving all the love to the Canadians, but they got a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, people. So that's, why we have there. But we have Janine Timmons. She's a Canadian consumer advocate. She smoked for 40 years and quit smoking more than 8 years ago. I think it's 9 years now after switching to a flavored vaping device after just kind of picking it up on a whim. She's also a member of the Vapers for Smoke-Free Canada, which is a grassroots panel of vaping consumers which have engaged with policymakers to share their lived experiences of quitting smoking by switching to vaping. Janine, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
If you don't mind, I gave you kind of a quick version of your bio. If you don't mind kind of explaining to our viewers a little bit more about who you are and what you've been up to in Canada.
Well, like you said, I smoked for 40 years and never thought I'd quit. I gave up quitting because too many failed attempts. So I just kind of put it on the shelf and said, forget it. So I picked up an e-cig on a whim and just planned on using it on the patio so I didn't bother my neighbors. And to my shock and surprise, 2 weeks later, I had completely quit smoking. So it'll be 9 years in September. And I got involved in advocacy after I was always aware, but not as aware as I perhaps could have been when the flavor ban first came into view in Canada. I made a submission to Health Canada on my opinions about flavor bans. And a few months later, I was contacted by the director of tobacco control and vaping. And she wanted to speak with me. And from there, she wanted to hear about lived experiences. And it was actually on her suggestion that we perhaps think about forming a small group of adult Canadians who had used these devices to quit smoking. They wanted to learn about our lived experiences and hear our stories. And from there, it's just kind of grown. And here I am.
And it's great you got that link. I've heard about, consumers are listened to over there in Canada, which is quite rare. But just what's going on at the moment, you've got this guy, he looks a bit of a thug to me, Mark Holland, the health minister, his wild-eyed rant at the cameras about Zonic was quite entertaining, especially as you got just about everything wrong. But it seems to me you've got Health Canada, which is largely in favour of harm reduction, being bullied by this politician. Do you want to tell us what your view is of that? I might have got that wrong, of course.
No, you're actually right, Martin. I think we're all a little bit shocked after that performance a couple of weeks ago that Minister Holland put on. I'm shocked because we felt all along that it has been 3 years, I believe, since that first submission. And the flavor ban was basically shelved. So we were led to believe, perhaps we shouldn't have, but because there have been no mention of a flavor ban for almost 3 years, we just sort of figured they'd shelved it until Mark Holland became the Minister of Health. His predecessor didn't really talk about it very much. Now, unfortunately, we have made headway, we feel, with Health Canada and speaking with Sonia and her team. What is amazing to me is the footsteps that we have made forward. Clearly, Mark Holland is not communicating at all with Health Canada. And if he is, he's dismissing and ignoring everything that they have put out about vaping and the benefits of it and how it doesn't cause cancer and there have been no illnesses, et cetera, et cetera. So there's either a gap between communication of Minister Holland and Health Canada, or he's plugging his ears and he's going down his own road. And it's quite shocking. He's just dismissing everything and going down his own road. And also what is surprising to me is that, yes, he's the Minister of Health, but as I understand, the actual file for tobacco and vaping and, pardon me, and mental health and addiction belongs to Yara Sachs, and she's been completely silent. She's stuck somewhere off in the shadows. I don't know where she is. She's not spoken up. He's just taken over. And it's dangerous.
I saw
He's
some
giving the wrong idea.
I saw some similarities in COP10 in Panama between Canada and the UK, where we've had kind of the same experience, where it seems to us that very recently the UK government has stopped talking to public health authorities in this country who generally back vaping. And then they went to COP10 and didn't mention our Swap to Stop campaign. And I know, talking to Maria P in Panama, that she said it was a gut punch that Canada didn't mention anything about harm reduction either. So, I mean, it seems like they seem to be on the same trajectory for some weird reason of ignoring all health advice and just going off on their own route.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely shocking to me that the Federal Minister of Health for Canada is putting on this show, and he's the Minister of Health, and what he's saying is, I don't want to say he's lying, but he's not telling the truth. Let's put it that way. He's misinforming Canadians. He's misinforming youth. He's misinforming parents about flavored vaping products to the detriment of the health of all Canadians, which is for the very people he is supposed to be helping. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's the complete opposite of what he should be doing.
Now, speaking of those Canadians, as you know, we're submitting some comments to your, Minister of Health. Sorry, when you guys start calling them ministers of health, it's just funny to this American. Okay, we call them commissioners. It's a little bit more formal. Or kind of alludes to the minister. It just reminds me of Harry Potter for some reason. I'm sorry. If I'm offending anybody internationally, I still just laugh about it. But I did some research on Canadian numbers, as I do the 50 state analyses with the American numbers. And it was, you guys actually, I can do that with the provinces and territories. Just give me about a few weeks. Okay. But I did notice that there was in 2022, it was 5.8% of Canadians aged 15 years or older were currently vaping, and it was actually 11.6% increase from 2021. And that's very similar to the United States numbers. I think ours are a little bit higher, and ours are also 18 and above when we're looking at it. But it was interesting that there was this increase there was a 42% increase among 25 to 44-year-olds and a 25% increase among 45 years or older. But there was a decrease between 15 and 19-year-olds. Again, really promising numbers that you're seeing more adults. I really like the Canadian Minister of Health or the Health Canada, because they asked, the adults, why are they using it? And so what I found in 2022 was that the percentage of the adults who were using e-cigarettes, the most common reasons was to reduce stress and or smoking cessation. And between 2019 and 2022, the percentage of Canadian adults who were reporting using e-cigarettes to avoid returning to smoking actually did increase. This is pretty amazing numbers, and it seems that it's kind of like, that Canada's doing the same thing in America, that they're completely ignoring the adults who use these and why they use these, and also, fruit flavors. These are more numbers for you. Between 2019 and 2022, of the adults who were using e-cigarettes, the fruit flavored e-cigarettes increased by 27.1%, but the percentage of using tobacco flavored vapes decreased by 39.3% during that same period. Can you talk more about these adults and give some, more of these people, give some, some examples of these consumers, and help me put some, people to these numbers that I just threw out there?
Well, I can definitely speak about our group. We're mostly over 55. So we have a lot of years of smoking between us. And we're also, I like to think we're kind of a target group. The longer you smoke, the more damage you're going to do. And it makes sense to me that the fruit flavored use among adults goes up, because a lot of people do start with a tobacco flavor because it's familiar. They want that familiarity of when they smoked. And being adults, you've smoked for many, many, many years. So that's what you want. And myself and many others, in speaking to other adults, once you've been vaping for a few weeks or even a few months, your taste buds are much, much better. And you suddenly realize, good Lord, this is disgusting. I don't want this. So you move on to the fruit flavors. The thing that's interesting too, Lindsey, about the fruit flavors in kids and all of that, they're saying that the flavors attract them, but really, I have to think about what devices adults are using. Most of the adults I know that have been vaping for a bit use open systems. So they use their own liquid. So we're going to gravitate towards what we like, because you can get any 12 milligrams, 6, 3, 0, whatever, except in BC, we're not allowed to have 0. So that makes sense to me. Now, the kids are, I think, steering towards the fruit flavors, not because that's what they want and that's what attracts them. That's what's available, because they're using disposables. They're not using refillable devices. They're using disposables, and they're sharing them amongst themselves, and they'll get whatever they can. And that's the fruit flavors. Adults, we look for variety, because that's what everybody does when you're an adult. You use spices, you use salt, you put honey in your tea, you put a dash of lemon. You want to make it enjoyable, because you don't want to smoke again. My best friend of going on 50 years, we're the same age, and she smoked as well, and she actually quit with vaping fruit flavors. It'll be 2 years this December. She hasn't had a cigarette, and I'm super proud of her. And she has said to me, it's the flavors. Even though I'm adult, I still like flavors. Why would we suddenly not like flavors because we turn 21 years old?
Yeah, you
Period.
got flavors and everything
We
else.
like flavors.
Yeah, you got flavors and everything else, didn't you? There's
Pardon
flavored
me?
alcohol, there's flavored everything. But for some reason, they've got a block on it saying only under 18s are interested in flavors. I mean, I vape pear drops, which is a sweet that I enjoyed when I was a kid. I don't think they sell them anymore. And I vape. I do vape bubblegum flavor occasionally, because bubblegum is raspberry and strawberry, I think. I mean, a raspberry and banana, sorry. So these are flavors you get in every dessert menu. Are we saying that, if you go into a top end restaurant, you shouldn't use the dessert menu unless you're under 18? It's just bizarre why they get this idea.
Like exactly. And I live steps. I've mentioned this before, but it just blows me away. I live steps away from a Dairy Queen, which is like an ice cream parlor. There's a gazillion adults in there, and a gazillion adults lined up in the summertime to get their giant ice cream chocolate chip. It is absolutely ludicrous to me that it's only kids that enjoy those flavors. It's nonsensical. There wouldn't be restaurants if people didn't like flavors.
Well,
There's THC gummy bears here that are legal, that are flavored.
actually, I'm going to segue off to the kids, because again, well, even you guys have the same thing. Kids are not citing using e-cigarettes up in Canada because of the flavors. And according to the Public Health or the Canada, was it Public Health Canada? I've been looking at too many countries right now. All the departments of health are getting different things, but I want to say it's Public Health Canada. The most common reason. Health Canada. Okay. Public Health England, Health Canada. Sorry, Canadians, do not get mad at me. I'm terrible with everything. I don't even know what to call most states. But anyways, in 2021, 2022, among Canadian youth who were currently using an e-cigarette in the past 30 days, 20.4%, that was the most common reason, had used them for the same reason that adults use them, to relax or relieve tension. 19.8% had said they were addicted to them. 13.6% enjoyed them. 9.1% said they'd use them because they wanted to have a good time with their friends. And whereas flavors, only 7.4% youth who were using e-cigarettes cited they used them because of flavors, which is kind of unfortunate because you can't compare these surveys with adult surveys because they don't ask the adults that option. I mean, how many adults like using e-cigarettes because of flavors? We don't know because we don't ask them question. To go back into the kids stuff though, you're seeing
because they don't want the answer.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I would love to see those numbers. I mean, I'm just excited that Canada actually asked adults why they use e-cigarettes. Okay, we don't even get that here in the States. But what's alarming about the youth use though is the percentage. This kids are being confused about the continuum of risk among tobacco products, at least in Canada, and I'm sure it's still in the States, but we don't ask that. I need to look at the perceptions of it, but so. Okay, so yeah, between 2014 and 2015 and 2021, 2022, the percent of kids who of students in 7th to 10th, 12th grades who cited that there was no risk associated with combustible cigarette use increased by 125%, from 2.8% of kids who thought there was zero risk with using cigarettes to 6.3%. And now during the same period, the percent of kids who thought that there was no risk from e-cigarette use decreased by 16.4%, while the percent who thought that there was great risk increased by 35.4%. So you have this case where kids are actually, you have an increasing of kids who think that cigarettes are not harmful and an increasing of kids who think e-cigarettes are harmful, with this whole that you're coming now with a generation who's going to be under the impression that e-cigarettes are more harmful than cigarettes. Can you talk a little bit about that? And sorry it took me so long to get around it. It's a lot of numbers and data.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No problem. I think what strikes me the most is about that data is if kids are getting the wrong message, who are they getting it from? It just certainly doesn't help when our Minister of Health goes on federal or nationwide television and has a press release about how dangerous and the illnesses, the death, the sicknesses. They're sending mixed messages. It's, in my view, it is up to them to give the youth proper information. They're failing. They're failing miserably, and that's what they should be focused on, is the information that they are giving both adults but youth as well. Because if youth are believing now that combustible cigarettes are kind of a better avenue to take, we're in trouble. And they need to understand that. How they cannot speak to that is just unbelievable to me. He prefers to go in front of the cameras with a dramatic spiel to get attention and say that flavors are bad and that's what kids are attracted to. Instead, he should use that opportunity to deliver correct information so that kids and adults can make a proper decision, because we can't make good choices and decisions if we don't have the real information. It's madness. It's absolutely madness. And he is responsible as Minister of Health for Canada to deliver the correct messages, and messages that aren't confusing to people. It has to be clear.
I was quite,
and it's not.
No, I was quite surprised about how willing he was to show his ignorance on the subject. I mean, if those of us who know about the subject just listened to him speaking and thought, you know absolutely nothing, and you're speaking on camera and showing yourself to know absolutely nothing. I mean, he spoke about the deaths from nicotine vaping, which are non-existent. He was talking about, THC illegal cartridges in 2019. He called nicotine pouches lethal. I seem to remember. I'm sure he called them lethal. I mean,
I think he did.
I mean, that's laughable. Where's he found it? Where's he find even one death from these things, let alone lethal? But yeah, this Zonic thing, again, the biggest ignorance I think he showed was because they said they've been licensed as a smoking cessation product, not as a pharmaceutical medicinal product, but as a way, an option, a consumer option to buy it instead of cigarettes. And he seems incapable. He doesn't have the brainscape, the brain. He doesn't have enough intelligence to understand that something can help you quit smoking, but it doesn't have to be by prescription. He just has a mental block. He just cannot see that a smoking cessation device does not have to be by prescription. You can buy it in a shop. I mean, that's the whole essence. What is difficult about that to understand? I mean, the guy's a government minister. How can he be that ignorant that he can't work that simple thing out in his own mind?
Which tells me, Martin, that he's not in communication with Health Canada. If he was, he would know what he wouldn't even mention that.
It's such a simple concept,
and he be able to guide him.
It's such a simple concept, and yet he seems incapable of grasping it. It's quite funny, really.
Too, what's interesting is it just popped into my head. I mean, Health Canada it is our federal health ministry, and if we are listening to them or reading what's on their website, and it states nicotine doesn't cause cancer, there have been no illnesses or deaths attributed to e-cigarette use, and then you have the Minister of Health come on television and basically wipe out everything that Health Canada has been saying. How are Canadians supposed to trust Health Canada? We're sort of, okay, do we listen to him or do we listen to these people that are supposed to be helping him, and they're supposed to be incommunicado? We're left with a population that is completely confused, and the data shows it.
I think actually, now I'm going to segue into that because, again, I was doing the research. The Canadian government has been very big on harm reduction, especially when it comes to people who use drugs. And actually, I know when I was looking for through the cessation, quitting smoking, even Health Canada acknowledges that e-cigarettes are an important tool to they stop short of actually calling it a harm reduction device. But I know, I was looking at a statement, and that one of a tenet of the harm reduction program was as the Substance Use and Addictions Program, SUAP, that Health Canada provides grants to local governments with. And quote, what a promising practice that involves healthcare practitioners providing prescription drugs as an alternative to highly toxic street drugs with the goals of helping to reduce overdose deaths for those at most at risk. Now, obviously, they're looking at the prescription model, but again, they do get this concept of harm reduction. And I know, and they actually, it seems with their harm reduction program for people who use drugs, there is a lot of outward looking for the people who use drugs and asking them what their needs and their wants are to best address that. Why do you think that you're not seeing the same thing when it comes to people who smoke in Canada? I guess this compassion and sympathy, and also this, that not, we're not just, not just, quit or die.
I think this is a really good question, Lindsay, and that plays around in my head almost every day, because Canada is they hold a lot of respect for harm reduction when it comes to drug use. Now, I wish I could figure it out. If there seems to be a lack of compassion and care and respect for people who smoked. We've moved into this harm reduction model to help people who have a problem with drugs, but smoking, we are just sort of swept to the side. They've said their piece. Everybody knows that smoking is bad for you. It's pretty okay to judge people that smoke. It's accepted. You wouldn't judge. You'd be called out for judging someone who uses drugs and is trying to get off them. But it's my feeling that you certainly wouldn't be called out to judge someone who smokes and is trying to stop smoking in any manner possible. The point is, if you quit, you quit. It doesn't matter how you do it. But we are not applauded for that. We have this product that will help you. Sorry, you can't have it. Pardon? There's us, it's an us and them thing. People who smoke have been stigmatized our whole lives, like people who have used drugs. So what's the difference? If the government, the federal government, provincial government, civic, whatever it may be, backs harm reduction. If you ask a politician, do you believe in harm reduction, and they say yes, but they don't want people to have access to a product like flavored vaping products, then they don't believe in harm reduction. They only believe in a portion of it. And you can't, it's not a piece of pie. You can't cut out this slice and say, well, yes, we believe in harm reduction when it pertains to this group, but people who smoke, no, sorry. It doesn't, no. The harm reduction, no, sorry. That's what it means.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm struck by what you said. When I was in Panama, Brent Stafford showed a clip of you in his studio where you said, you know, these products have helped so many millions of people to quit smoking, and you're saying instead of celebrating that, the other side are spreading misinformation and lies and stigmatizing vapors and everything. And you're saying, but we're thinking this saves so many lives. Where's the parade? We should be celebrating this. Why are they not? You know?
Hello. Still waiting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Not happening. Most people, when you know what's interesting to me is if you tell someone that you've quit smoking, they often, I mean, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, awesome, way to go. And if you tell them how they did it, oh, why do you care how I did it? I quit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I sucked on a pencil for a month and it helped. The tool you use doesn't matter. The point is you quit. And the judgment needs to stop. We're still waiting. We're still waiting.
Yeah, and for the Nobel Prize for Hon Lick as well, I would say. We shouldn't just throw that one to the, where's that coming from?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, guys, we are getting on to the last leg. I always ask, you know, our guests to, you know, always kind of go out with some, and, you know, hopefulness. And, you know, so do you have any messages to our viewers, any messages to Canadians too? While this flavor ban consultation is good, not a consultation, people, but they are definitely looking into it. So do you have any advice?
I do. If you're concerned at all about losing flavors, if you're concerned at all that we are going to lose this most magnificent tool, speak to your MPs. Go to Rights for Vapors, send an email. They have made it so easy, it will take less than 5 minutes. We have reached over 17,000 letters now in about a week and a half or 2 weeks. For us, that's amazing. Canada's a huge country and there's not a lot of us across that big expanse. We need to get the message out, and please don't give up. Don't sit back and say they're going to win, because they didn't with the flavor ban the first time. They heard us. We had 20,000 submissions a couple of years ago, and that's how the director of tobacco and vaping that's why she got in touch with us. The door was open to crack. It has, there's been a big foot in the way right now. We know who it belongs to, but we will continue to open that door, and we will continue to communicate with them, because at the end of the day, our stories matter. And they're very impactful.
Well, that's a great way to end, I think. Did you have anything else to say, Lindsay, or do you want me to wrap up?
I've said enough today, so my apologies, Janine, about that.
Oh, good. Don't worry. Are you kidding? It's just really great to see you.
I was so excited just to like do the numbers for a Canadian in person. Well, in Zoom person. So it's not often that I get to do that. I got
It's
your
very
numbers.
exciting. It's very
Yeah.
exciting, and we appreciate it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on, Martin. You want to close out?
Yeah, thanks for that. It was great last words there. I'm saying that all the time. Get in touch and make an effort to challenge politicians, because we are the most important voice, as I always say. So thanks very much, Janine.
Thank
I
you.
hope to meet you in person one day. It's a shame you couldn't come to Panama with us, but maybe next year for the next COP, perhaps, who knows. But thanks for being with us, and thanks everyone for watching. We've been doing these quite regularly now. We're trying to aim for one a week, and we'll have someone else being recorded later this week, and another edition next week, hopefully, for you. So thanks everyone for watching, and see you in the next edition of Across the Pond podcast.